Welcome to Career Uprising. I'm your host, Lorraine Rise, a career and executive coach dedicated to helping clients who are 40 plus to break free from feeling stuck and transform into the unstoppable force you're destined to become. Let's start the uprising. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is episode 178. Being qualified is not enough with Gregory Heller. Welcome, everybody. When this show airs, it will be June. So happy June to you. Halfway through the year, basically, already. It's hard to believe, but I feel like when we are halfway through, this is a great time to kind of take stock of your goals for the year. What are your personal, your professional goals? Where are you at? And if you're feeling a little behind, that's okay. That happens to all of us. Now's a great time to just do some inventory, see what you want to still accomplish by the end of the year. I love to do that. I'm doing that myself. So I do what I advise to my clients, definitely. And I know for a lot of people, job searching is something that you are going through right now. Probably wasn't something you wanted to do. It's very tough out there in the market, but whatever industry you're in, I know tech is getting hit hard. I know federal clients are getting hit hard. There's a lot of people out there job searching. So what I want to do today, I am going to bring on a wonderful guest in just a moment. We've had a lot of guests this year. This has been a really, really good year for just really connecting with a lot of people who have phenomenal insights. But to help those of you who are in the job search right now, I titled this show, Being Qualified Isn't Enough, for a reason, because I think this is something that I hear a lot of clients get frustrated with, right? They apply, and they apply. They get ghosted, they get rejected, whatever, or they just get turned down, even though they're qualified. And there's a whole lot of reasons why that could happen. But there are definitely people out there, I think, who get frustrated with that and have the expectation that if I'm qualified, what's the problem? The job search should be easier. I should be getting more interviews, or I should be getting more offers, right? But the truth is, being qualified is not enough, not even close. That's just the price of entry. That is just the basic expectation. That's not enough to actually get hired. There's a lot of things that it comes down to, differentiating factors in an interview. And that's kind of what I want to zero in with today, because our guest today, Gregory Heller, is phenomenal in that department. So those soft skills, that emotional intelligence, right? Your communication, how you present, how you show up in the interview. Those are often the differentiating factors. And Gregory is an expert in public speaking, presentation, communication, all those, quote, soft skills that really aren't soft at all. There's nothing light or soft about them. They are critical, and they are often the deciding factor in who actually gets the offer. So you have to assume then that everybody you're competing with is probably qualified and has similar qualifications to you. So what is it going to be that's going to help you to really stand out and actually get the offer? I think that's what Gregory's going to be able to help us with today. So he has a unique perspective here coming from the world of higher education. I don't know that I have ever interviewed anyone on the show from the academic world. So this is kind of different. And I love this. I think his perspective is going to be very, very valuable. Gregory is a senior director at the University of Washington's Foster School of Business. He's also a career coach himself. He's coached hundreds of MBA candidates at UW's Foster School of Business to help them achieve their career goals. He's also got a background in nonprofit communication, and he is a phenomenal communicator. You guys, trust me, I know. I've heard the man speak, facilitate, give interviews. He is terrific. He's also an early adopter of technology and has been using generative AI tools since late 2022. So we're going to touch on that topic as well. And he has his own show as well. He has his own podcast, Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. So he's also in the studio today. So I'm going to be quiet and let Gregory come on and share his own expertise. Welcome to the show, Gregory.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Of course, we're happy to have you. I know you're a busy man. School year's not over yet, really, or maybe just about. So thank you for taking out some time. So let's let everybody get to know you a little bit first before we dive into the meat of it. Tell us just a little bit about your background and how you got into the work you're doing today.
Yeah, thank you. So I got into this business of career coaching in a really roundabout way. I would say that my career advice or the credo that I lived by is kind of like the improv credo, yes and. I took a lot of opportunistic moves throughout my career that led me here. And the way that I actually came into this role was through presentation coaching. I was brought on to the university to teach presentation skills and to coach students on presentation. And this funny thing started happening, which is that some of the students that were really having trouble landing a job, even though they were getting interviews, started to come to me to ask for some of this, what you call soft skills. We're starting to call power skills coaching. And they started landing the offers. So the assistant dean of career management here at Foster tried to get me onto her team, and I finally agreed. So I said, like, look, I really don't know how to career coach. And she's like, I think you're going to be great. So that's how I ended up joining this team about 8 years ago after doing presentation and communication skills coaching and training. And in that time, I've had, as you said, the opportunity to work with hundreds, probably well over 1,000 MBAs now on improving these power skills, their storytelling, their personal narrative, how to conduct an interview, as well as how to find that right fit when they are in that job search.
Mm-hmm. I love that reframing. You call them power skills. They are. They are often overlooked, but so critical, and they're a little bit intangible, right? So it's harder to know what does that mean? How do I improve that? But I agree with you. It's one of the most important things that you can learn to improve and harness in a job search. And that's really interesting that you are seeing that with your students as well, that they're not getting the offer when they overlook that. Absolutely.
This being qualified, is not enough. I have students who are technically qualified for the roles they're applying for. And what we see the difference, and we'll get to talk more about this, I'm sure, is that there is this something else that you need, this ability to communicate effectively, the ability to build relationships and rapport with your interviewer or with people inside the company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So from your perspective, what makes a candidate really stand out in the process? Are there a few certain skills that are more important than others? Or, when thinking about hiring, what is it that people really need to focus on improving?
I think it's the rapport building early in the process. That includes in every interview, in the first really few minutes of the interview, but also in the process of networking with people at a company, at a target company. It's really building that rapport. And I think too many candidates, when they go in for a job interview, they think of it like a test or an exam rather than thinking of it like a conversation. And that's what I really work with a lot of students to reframe the experience of the job interview as a series of conversations where you're building connection, where you are making these relationships that will distinguish you from another candidate.
I love that also. Not thinking of the interview process as a test, but a conversation. So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute here because I can hear some people, I agree with you, but I can hear some job seekers out there saying, but the interviewer doesn't treat it like a conversation. They're testing me. Maybe they're in a tough interview or they're getting like grilled with questions, something like that. How can you still harness that mindset when you're when the interviewer acts like they're testing you a little bit? Do you know what I'm asking?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, we're in Amazon's backyard here. They're famous the bar raiser interview where they are trying to push people. They're trying to push your buttons. They're trying to put you on your back foot, get you on your heels. So I think it's important to understand a couple things, right? Like the interviewer is playing a role They are not there to be your friend, but you still have to be personable and try to be their friend. The second thing is that interviewer might be on their 8th interview of the day. And that you're not at your best. I'm not at my best when I'm on my 8th appointment of the day, right? So you have to keep in mind, like, what is actually happening here. And regardless of what you're getting from that interviewer, you have to really bring your most personable, most enthusiastic self to that interview. Even if you're getting monosyllabic questions, monotone questions asked at you, even if it's a virtual interviewer and the interviewer turns their camera off, you have to be active and engaged and warm, because what we know, and this goes back to, there's a lot of research on this, warmth and competence is what people are trying to judge for when they are meeting someone for the first time. So you got to come across as both. And we have a lot of people who are competent. They know the subject. They have maybe the appropriate experience. They've got the skills. But if you are competing against a candidate, like you said, who has all of that, ticks all those boxes, but is a little bit more warm, like, that's human. It's ingrained in our brains going back, hundreds of thousands of years. You've got to be that as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we're hardwired to make connections with other people. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. You can't overlook that, that they are not only evaluating you for your hard skills, but just they're literally looking across the table at you going, can I work with this person? Do I like this person? I mean, whether we like it or not, they are, that's just the reality of it. So what can people do to start working on some of this? So if somebody is actively interviewing right now and they're not progressing or they're not getting offers, and they need to improve the way that they are showing up somehow in their soft skills and their presentation, where do they start? What is something that they could do to improve?
It's really important to work with someone. It could be your friend. It could be your spouse. It could be a family member. It could be someone in a job search circle that you've set up. You need to be talking to other human beings, and you need to practice. This is not something that you can do by just writing out scripted answers and practicing in the mirror. I think there's some great technological tools that can be used. I'm a big fan of one called Udly, which is a startup here out of Seattle, and I've been working with them for 3 years now. But you really need to talk to humans and practice with humans, because that is who you're going to be performing with when you're in the interview. Getting comfortable with your story. And I like to say, sometimes a candidate will basically like shake out a bunch of puzzle pieces on the table in front of the interviewer. And what you really need to do is actually put that puzzle together in front of the interviewer. So really understanding how your story fits together with what that interviewer is looking for, what they need in order to evaluate you as a solid candidate for the role.
Mm-hmm. I call it bridging the gap. I say getting hired comes down to 3 words: bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to go, and you're the solution. Right? Your knowledge or experience is the solution, which I think is similar to what you were saying.
There's this, maybe it's an apocryphal story, but it's about an actor who was not getting any, was going to casting calls and not getting any roles, right? And someone said to them, look, you're going into these casting calls, like the casting director is there to solve your problem, the problem that you don't have a job and you need one. And you got to go in there like you're there to solve their problem. So I tell that to students and candidates that I work with a lot of times. You're the solution to that hiring manager or that recruiter's problem, right? They're not there to solve your problem of needing a job. You're there to solve whatever their problem is of filling that role.
Yes, that's a great way to look at it. Yes, absolutely. You have to frame yourself as a problem solver, because that's why they're hiring. Yes, absolutely. So agreed. Are there any, in your experience in working with students and your coaching clients, are there any soft skills out there that you find that most people are weaker on? Any trends? I guess in working on this, like most people overtalk or something else. What are most people doing wrong in the interview process?
Yeah, I think it's treating it like a series of one-way essay questions. And I think that the hiring process is actually forcing people in this direction because oftentimes, as you know, that first stage might be a higher view, recorded interview where an avatar asks you a question and you answer it, and an avatar asks you a separate question and you answer it. And then I think candidates go into the job interview with that same mindset rather than the mindset of, oh, this interview is actually a conversation that we're going to have. There's going to be back and forth. So really thinking about how you have a back and forth conversation with your interviewer rather than deliver a bunch of scripted essay questions.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about with those one-way recorded interviews. It's crazy, right? You're just talking into your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that would make it easier or harder. It's kind of odd, right? Like it's odd to talk to your computer, but but then maybe you're less nervous. I don't know, because there's not a person. It's the way we interview is just changing so rapidly. It really is. And so, I think that's a good segue into talking about, technology, how the hiring process is changing. How about the role of AI? What are you seeing there? And how are you helping people that your students, your clients, to adopt AI? And what role is it playing for them in the job search?
I think that AI can help candidates accelerate the iterative process of improving on an interview. It can also help with research and framing of your own stories. So, I'll work with students where the answers may be a little bit too long, maybe it's a little disorganized, and I'll teach them to take the transcript of that answer and work with a generative AI tool to better organize it and possibly to reword that answer such that it better speaks to the job description. But the thing that you really need to watch out for is overly relying on the tool. Like, it's a scaffold to help teach better organization. You can't have it in the interview with you, and I actually heard a story recently of someone who was conducting an interview, and they said it was obvious that the person was using AI in the interview to script their answers and holding scripted answers right out of the AI. So that is just an absolute no-go. But as sort of training wheels or a scaffold for organizing your answers, extracting the most salient points to create a set of talking points that you can rely on as you're preparing. I think that's one amazing use case. As I mentioned, there's a tool that I like to use called Yoodli. That's YOODLI.ai. And it can actually create role play mock interviews for you where you give it a job title and a company, and it'll ask you a question and you answer the question, and then it will ask you a follow-up question based upon the answer that you gave. So I think that's a great tool, and it has a lot of other metrics that it gives you. And you can actually do a similar thing with ChatGPT Plus, where you can tell ChatGPT Plus, I want you to act like this person interviewing me for this role at this company. Please be aggressive in your interview style. Ask me a question, then ask me 2 follow-up questions based upon my answer, and then give me a point-by-point critique of my answers.
Wow, that is an incredibly specific prompt.
And if people haven't tried this out yet, with ChatGPT Plus, you can interact with it conversationally. So I'm not talking about text where you're going to type out your answer. I'm talking about giving it that prompt. You can even give it that prompt by voice, and it will, by voice, ask you questions, listen to your spoken answers, and then ask you out loud follow-up questions.
That's incredible. Wow. It's a little creepy, but incredible at the same time. Wow, that's incredible. So what are some of your favorite tools? So it sounds like the Chat GPT plus, and then the other one was Yoodly. Did I say that right?
YOODLI.ai. Those are two of the favorite ones. Our students have access to Copilot, and if there are folks that's from Microsoft, there are a lot of tools that are available through your campus. If you're a student, you should figure out what you have access to for free. A lot of these tools like Anthropic's Claude and like I said, ChatGPT and some others are offering free access or very low cost access for particular windows of time to students. And of course, there are free versions as well. The one thing you need to know about the free version, as they say, if you're not paying, then you're not the customer. And most of them will essentially train on your conversation and interaction and prompts unless you explicitly opt out of your material being entered into the training data. So, be cautious and be an informed user of these tools.
Interesting. Okay. Fantastic. Well, so we do need to wrap up. I think you have presented a number of really, really great insights here, because there's so many people out there who are job searching right now. And I think this has been really, really helpful. So where can listeners learn more about you? You have your own podcast. How can people potentially connect with you or listen to your show as well?
Yeah, the best two places to go for that are conversationsoncareers.com, where you can find my podcast. You can find a link to me on LinkedIn, which is just, linkedin.com/in/Gregory Heller. Those are the two best places. And my podcast can be listened to on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and
And I was on your show as well. So everyone needs to listen to both of these episodes, right? Because they overlap, but there's also some differences in there too. Yeah. So phenomenal. Well, thank you so much for being here, Gregory. You're doing great work. Happy to have you in the studio today. And I recommend everybody go check out his show, all the episodes of it. And thank you for being here and for helping our listeners.
Yeah, really, really happy to share. And it's a brave new world in recruiting, I think, and in the job search. What I just would say to anyone out there job searching is, if you feel like you're getting a lot of rejections, you're getting ghosted, you're not alone. This is a long game that you got to play, and you really got to develop a bit of a thick skin and some resilience here, and find your people to be on the search with, because it's challenging times right now.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And so everyone, there will be another episode next Monday. So stay tuned. You can find the archive of this show at careeruprising.com/podcast. We're up to 178 episodes and continuing to rock and roll. So we'll talk to you all again very soon. Hey, it's Lorraine, and I want to say thanks for listening. If you found value in today's show, I would be honored to have your review on Apple Podcasts. It's the single best way to help this show be found by other listeners, and you'll earn some good karma. Thanks again for tuning in, and I can't wait to connect with you next time on Career Uprising.